Okay. Right now, we need to go get on your accounting hats. We're going to understand how to get our costs by diagnosis, referral type, by patient, by team. Okay? And all of us are much closer to having this than what we realize. Usually it's just a couple moves and you're there. Okay? So let's go into it. It is in your books. Let's go to page, and there's also a CD that explains this as well. 271. Hospice is a true managed care system. I think we forget that. And with that, I think there's an expectations that we are experts at knowing our costs. To be a true managed care organization, we have to be experts at cost accounting. And that message has not gotten through. Okay? We are managed care. So let's go into the methodologies that we use. These are based on accepted, cost accounting principles. And the thing is, there are things that, and I'll just say this, all the calculations that we're doing right here are already being done for you if you're using the management application. So this is happening automatic behind the scenes. Okay, so it's already being done if you're benchmarking. Isn't that wonderful? You're thinking, I'm already doing it. Now I'm not using it, but I'm doing it. Okay, so let's take it down to the basics. Okay, we use a multi-step allocation base. Even though we don't allocate anything in the ledger, when we allocate within reports. When people allocate in the ledger with hard numbers, journal entries, guess what? They're wrong. They'll choose different allocation bases such as cost or patient days or whatever, and you're going to be misled, and you're going to look at the number later on and go, that's not quite right. But at some point, you do have to allocate indirect costs to direct functions in order to come up with what we'll call a fully absorbed amount or whatever. Okay, so we know how much to charge if we can do that, or at least how much it's costing. Again, this is intelligence, and again, working in the concrete world. So let's start out with the application of operational statistics to financial amounts. Basically, we're talking about direct costs right now. This is the simplest part of this. So we have our normal disciplines, okay? These are our direct labor. We're not talking about indirects yet. Okay, and we have some amounts that we can pull from our ledger. Okay, we suggest that you have at least 3 divisors or statistics that you divide these GL numbers by. Patient days, because there is some value to patient day costs, okay, even though from comparability standpoint and professionalism, again, moving to the ranks of professional from the ranks of amateur involves benchmarking and consciousness of what's happening in the external world. There are still applications, especially in the patient-related areas, regarding patient days. Okay. Also, the number of visits by discipline is part of the divisor. Also, visit hours. Now, visit hours is going to be your key to understanding your costs by diagnosis, by clinician, by referral source, by team. Okay? Okay, so basically, we've taken these GL numbers, we've divided them by these very statistical basis, and we come up with a result. Okay? There's our patient day numbers, there's our visit numbers, there's our visit hour numbers. Okay? That's pretty easy. Our patient-related costs, normally you don't divide those by visits or visit hours. So patient days actually works in that case. Okay. All that's pretty simple. And here we got $166,000 of direct costs. Okay, got that. Then we move into a two-phase allocation system. Again, in the multi-view world, we take 50 specific areas of indirect costs and allocate them on various allocation bases that seem appropriate. Okay? These could be based on time studies. Some things could be based on square footage. Some things, whatever that seems like an appropriate allocation base. Again, an appropriate allocation base of resource consumption. So administration might be a time study, whatever, square footage, whatever. We have our indirect amounts. Here's $160,000. I'm just using 3 areas, but again, we're using 50. And this is a complicated hospice. If you're a pure play hospice, without these other things, this becomes almost as easy as direct costs. But if we're a semi or a complicated hospice, I'll say, we've got to do some type of allocation. So in this case, we have hospice home care, we have palliative care, we have an inpatient unit. Administration, how much time do you spend dealing with your palliative care program? Is it half your time focusing on this other thing or whatever? That's the time is your primary driver of resource consumption in a business that's dominated by human beings. Okay. So we take that 160 and we divide it based on whatever allocation base we have, and we come up with these different amounts attributable to the different business segments. Next, and this is, we learned this kind of early on in Multiview. We used to study and break down again all these areas. And we found that there's a close relationship between payroll dollars, payroll dollars that was very, very close to the time studies. Now, places where it kind of didn't work were like physician. The cost of physician is high, and it could skew the numbers. So we have modifiers in the system that you can basically make it where it doesn't distort your numbers. But the point is, nurses normally require more resources than managing CNAs. Okay? And it kind of goes like that. And the thing is, this is a very rational approach. And the thing is, it's very consistent. So everybody's numbers are run through the same thing. So here of that $160,000, we have $109,000 of that indirect cost that needs to be allocated to the hospice home care business segment. So here it is, and based on salaries, we allocate $43,000 the RNs, here's the LPNs, here's the CNA allocation, social work, spiritual care, intake or our admissions, bereavement, total. So it's totally distributed. So it's a two-phase allocation. Okay? And this brings us to what they in the accounting world calls a fully absorbed cost. Now, this is a misnomer. This fully absorbed cost, you'd think that it has all costs. It has all costs except for one thing. Patient-related. Because your patient-related costs, I'll just say this is a systematic thing, are going to go directly into your patient management system, which is a true relational database. Okay? And you'll see in a moment why we do it like this. Okay, so here we have our direct labor. Again, we've done that simple division. We come up with something. Here's our direct costs for this. Then we have these indirect amounts when we divide it. When we apply our this is for a visit hour, would be here. This is like our cost per visit. When we apply the statistics, we get another amount for that. Again, taking those indirects and dividing it by the physical counts. And of course, we add those together and we get this amount. And then our patient day ones, segment, we can get a good estimate there just by dividing those costs. Okay? Is this clear or is this not clear? We're just taking the two and putting them together, the direct costs and then the allocated costs. Okay?
Direct payroll costs, not your direct costs, your direct payroll costs.
Well, your payroll costs, and now we have indirect costs.
That's right. This is just your payroll costs and your indirect costs.
Well, and your facility costs are actually in here too.
You're in the indirects.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. The only thing we don't have here is your patient relateds. Your medications, DME, all that. On a patient day basis, you can take your amount and just divide it by it and get your average or what it costs per day. And that's a relatively simple. You normally don't do that per visit or per visit hour.
So when you talk about a 2% acceptable loss for, I think it was palliative, right? Is that on a fully absorbed basis, or are you saying?
Fully absorbed. I mean, you definitely have to look at it in some type of aggregate. Now, this slide will bring it all together. And this is an all scripts based report, but most of your hot dog systems, I would demand to have this type of report. This is one of your most useful management reports, period, in hospice. Okay, you're looking at it. You're looking at the holy grail almost. Here it's called it's called a revenue and expense analysis. It might be called something different in a Cerner system or whatever. And basically, it has a period of time, and let's say we run it for lung cancer. And what I'm suggesting is basically, on a quarterly basis, you take your fully absorbed visit hour costs, again, or visit costs, but visit costs are not as good as visit hours. Your visit hour costs, on a quarterly basis, you go into your patient management system and you update the cost fields associated with the different activity codes. Okay? Again, it includes all costs. It has indirect as well as direct, but it excludes the patient relateds because the patient relateds are assigned individually to each patient. Okay? And then when we look at systems integration here, they'll become, because the thing is there's a natural flow. If certain patients on a certain types of meds, all of those need to be listed out for that patient because they're directly associated with that patient. They're not spread all over the place like rent expense and things like that.
So you think the clinicians need to put that in the actual meds?
Well, it has to be there. I would not even do business with a pharmacy vendor that would not give me an upload file either once or twice a month of the costs and stuff where I can punch a button and it goes up in my system. Am I going to manually put that in? By patient. By patient. Absolutely. Okay. But this is the end result that you want. This is basically a mini income statement for lung cancer in this situation. Here's the direct labor. It denominates, and what it does, it basically calculates based on your input of this fully absorbed cost, a financial amount. It'll give you a cost per day. It will give you the number of visits for lung cancer. It will tell you, again, the direct time, the travel time for lung cancer patients. Again, because indirect time here, which is documentation, is part of direct anymore. Total time. So you get the labor piece, which is a fully absorbed cost. It's not just the direct cost of the nurse. It actually includes the CO, part of the CO's salary, rent, all that. And then, because all the patient relateds are going directly into the patient management system and then being dumped down into the accounting system, there's all our costs for medications, DME, medical supplies for lung cancer. That gives us a great approximation of costs. And let me say that again. All our reports like this are estimates, highly accurate estimates of costs of particular slices of either our organization, again, diet, diagnosis, age. You can run these reports on specific clinicians.
Facilities?
Yes.
Aren't the new codes going to be a lot more specific than for Medicare?
Yeah, but the point is, you can get it. You can put a range. Okay, I want this one, this one, this one. There might be 10 different codes, but the point is, there's some type, whenever you do a query in a relational database, you're looking for a specific piece of information, and it's going to spit out the results and all the related pieces of information that relate to what's being asked of that system.
Right.
Okay.
I guess the question is, how specific does the cost analysis benefit you in terms of looking at diagnoses?
Totally. You can tell if a referral source is dumping on you. You can say, hey, of our population, we're getting this many lung cancers, or we're getting this many dementias. Dementias cost us this much. So we start to really grow up and become a managed care organization. And you say, well, that doesn't matter because we take everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. The point is, you can have a conversation with someone that's maybe a referral source that's more sophisticated than you and say, listen, this is what's happened. Let's compare yours with all other referral sources.
You can target market too. So if you look in there and you say, look, we make a lot more money on lung cancer than we do.
Or we lose, or whatever.
Exactly. Then you can, we've done this in oncology chemotherapy for years by diagnosis. And all the different chemo treatments per diagnosis and which ones you make the money on and what doctors you market to for what things. The same thing.
Again, we're talking here, and the question is, how do we sell what we're doing here, guys? Here's superpower, right in this report. And not only that, if you're actually updating your recurring journal entries that have your unit accounts, numbers of visits, patient days, visit hours, that's going into your accounting system through your memo or unit accounts. If you're using Dynamics, they're called unit accounts. If you're using Simon, they're called memo accounts. And Sage 100, what are they called?
Oh, I don't know what Sage is.
I think they're memo accounts as well. The point is, they're statistical accounts. This report has everything you need to complete that. You can run this for your entire population, and you know the number of days, you know the number of patients that are impacted, you know all the visit counts, you know the time. Man, I can manage a hospice with 3 statistics and a GL from a financial standpoint. Okay, and a relational database, which we all have, I assume have at some point. And then you can get exotic. Okay, you can say, hey, wrap this up, and then run this every few days or every week. Show me our 10 highest cost patients. And you might want to add to this who the clinician is, or who the doc is, or who the referral source was. Okay? Then let's look at the other one. Show us our lowest costs. The folks that are just getting aspirin and Band-Aids. Okay?
Facilities.
Yeah.
Because some facilities, I was saying to Sherry, sometimes we've had some facilities that, you get a referral and a list of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
They want everybody, they're scared of, they're going to get a wound.
Right.
Bed. So they want Hill-Rom mattresses.
So this is, again, we want to be a hot dog. We want to be in the elite, top 2 or 3% of hospices. This is what we have. This is one thing I like about the CFO program. I never get to talk about this stuff with any of the other groups. Now, here's a big one. Master plan, how to process invoices. Okay, first of all, in hospice, there are 2 categories of invoices. And I want to make a very clear distinction between the 2. There are patient-related invoices, and there are non-patient-related invoices. Our patient-related invoices are what? Medications, DME, therapies, all that. Okay. So here are 2 classes. Here are patient-related items, our pharmacy, our DME, therapies. Here are non-patient-related invoices, rent, utilities, dues, things like this. Okay, our patient-related invoices come in, again, and I would upload these things. Would I hammer it in? No. I'm going to make that a requirement of my vendor, because that's a lot of labor. Okay? And if they want to charge you a bunch for it, go shopping. If you're feeling bad, go shopping. I'm not a retail therapy guy, but anyway. I do understand the female persuasion, but I understand some males have this problem too. Only in that case, it turns out to be bass boats and things like that. Okay, so anyway, so our patient-related, they come into the patient management system, which is a relational database. Okay? From there, so this is the first point of entry of these invoices. It's not the general ledger. Then we dump a file down into our AP module of our accounting system, and it comes over in the ledger. We run our reports and all that.
Well, what's that supposed to do?
This is game changer stuff. Okay, but this is, okay, so there we have that, and we got that. Now, our rent, utilities, all these indirects, can they be assigned easily to a patient? No. So they come right to AP, or process like they normally are. They run through the ledger, but then we have our F9, we have our management application that actually, starts to allocate all those things so we can get that fully absorbed costs. And then here's the big thing here. On a quarterly basis, again, we take there's currently attainable costs that we have, and we update the cost fields of our activity codes, keeping it to a minimum. The less codes we have, the less we have to update. It might take you all of 15 minutes to update these things. And suddenly, out of the patient management system, we can run those revenue and expense analysis and know our cost by diagnosis, know what each clinician is costing us, or referral source, or whatever. And this is how it works.
And you've automated AP.
What's that?
And you've automated a good chunk of AP.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Oh no, there's none of those red things. The vendor ID code must be identical in both the patient management system and the accounting system. Okay?
So Allscripts can dump a file into the accounts payable, where they can pay. Then accounts payable can actually pay off of those.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to do a double entry.
Right.
Okay.
No, we're not doing double entry here, folks.
In terms of I get the process flow, and I get the ability of these files to do this, but implicit in this is sort of somebody that I would assume, well, you have two options. One, you have a management system that's so easy you don't need anybody to ever worry about it breaking, or things being entered wrong, or training staff, you know what I mean? Because they're not putting in the right codes or whatever. But it would seem this type of system would necessitate at least an IT guy that would understand both the patient management system, the general ledger, and the ability to work with ODBC or these other things. Or you're paying someone to do it.
Yeah, I'm actually finding the skill sets doesn't have to be that great. And I've got social workers that are interested in that have completely wired their hospice. Do you sometimes have you do things go wrong? Do updates come out once in a while that cause things? You got to watch that thing, but it's a lot simpler than what we think. Yeah, if we're not overly customized or whatever, or if things just go completely wild and we're used to looking at the numbers and suddenly they went from one place to another.
Right. But you still have to have a dedicated person, I'm assuming, to do or be responsible for...
Well, someone's got to own it, but it's not like it doesn't have to even be a full FTE. I mean, this might be just, part of their job.